Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prizepicks and the Gametime app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat presented by Prizepicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play, just $5. And are presented by Gametime. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofsky. And there's no Conor Ryan. There's no anybody. It's just me today on Bruins Beat. It's just me. Things didn't work out. It's a busy Friday, so I'm just banging this out myself. We haven't done this in a little while, so it's just me talking to myself, talking to you. Just us. We're sitting, having a chat. Who wouldn't want to talk about the Bruins right now? But it's a solo Bruins Beat, and I didn't do a Q&A. I'm sorry for that. I'll try to do one of those soon. This is just kind of my thoughts, what I've noticed of late. I'm trying to do different things here. I don't want to just do like, they need to retool. Here's what you trade Trent Frederick for. We've done a lot of that. I'm sure I'll mention it at some point. But going to try to do a little bit on Thursday night's brutal loss to Winnipeg. I want to get into Chara being back. I think this is fascinating. Fascinating. He's back. He's back in a front office advisory role. I want to dive into that and what that means, what the aftershocks of that could be. And then the Athletic put out some player cards that I think give some very interesting takeaways on this team and where they're at. So we'll start with the loss to Winnipeg, 6-2. Another night where I'm sure you guys sat there, watched the game, it finished, and you said, why did I waste my time? Why did I even waste my time? And that's what I felt on Tuesday after that 7-2 loss to Buffalo. And a lot of people commented on it, and I thought it ended up being a great show when Conor and I did Poke the Bear earlier this week. And both him and I sort of went nuts in a sense. We were going crazy. I don't get emotional like that a lot, but that's what Tuesday night's loss did. It broke me in a way. That was the breaking point where it was like, I can't keep doing this. I cannot keep watching this. And at least to the Bruins' credit, I agree with Sacco. I thought they played pretty well for the first 41 minutes of that game. And then the same problem of just compounding problems and goals happen. It's like the minute something goes wrong with this team, and it's been the case since the first night of the season, the minute something goes wrong with this team, everything goes to hell. Everything goes to hell. And that was the case again against Winnipeg. I mean, Elias Lindholm scores a shorthanded goal, ties it 11 seconds into the third, and you're like, okay, they got a game here. And then 4 straight goals from Winnipeg. Immediate. And that is frustrating. After the game, Charlie McAvoy was asked about it. Every player was asked about it. And the same answer was sort of, if we knew, we'd fix it. So they don't know what's going on. I think it's a lot of reasons. Breakdowns, lack of mental toughness. I also just think, and I've mentioned this a few times this year, they could use some veterans in that room. There's been a drain of veterans over the last, 5 years, dating back to Chara. I mean, obviously Chara, Bergeron, Krejci, Rask are the obvious ones, but you get into guys like David Backes, Pat Maroon, Kevin Shattenkirk. And, I understand that the last 3 I just mentioned didn't have a huge impact on the ice. We're slower. Maroon actually is having an okay year in Chicago. Shattenkirk just retired, and obviously Backes retired quite a while ago. But that stuff matters in an NHL dressing room. It gets guys going. And I'm not saying that they would be in the lineup every night and making an impact. I'm not even saying those 3 guys specifically. I think David Backes is a little past the prime there. But I do think that there is just a lack of veteran leadership in that room. And you've seen that this year with some of these compounding issues after one thing goes wrong. So again, brutal loss to Winnipeg. Obviously, Winnipeg, one of the best teams in the West. To me, my takeaways from the game, number 1, they need to retool. Like, that's obvious at this point. You get crushed by Buffalo. You have a horrible third period against Winnipeg. I know they're over 500 over the last 3 weeks. They're out of the playoffs right now. Out of the playoffs as I record this on Friday afternoon. They are out. They are the first team out. Columbus won. They are in. Retool. And I saw Defumi tweet this, actually. I think there are 4 games until the 4 Nations break. And he was like, what over that 4 games would make you change your opinion on this team? And I thought about it. I really tried my best to look at it and say, what would change my opinion on this team? Nothing. Nothing. There's nothing that would. There isn't. There's nothing. I've seen enough. Like Steve Kornacki on MSNBC. I've seen enough. That's where we're at. Even if they won the next 4 games, 10-0 each. I don't know how you could sit there and go, well, okay, that's a nice 4-game stretch, but what about the rest of the year? And it's been the same themes, same issues. That's why I don't see it changing. Retool is the way to go. Frederick out the door. And see what you can get for other roster pieces. I think that's really what it comes down to. One of the other tough parts of the loss, wasted a 2-point night from Elias Lindholm, had a power play assist and a shorthanded goal. Fluto wrote about this in The Athletic, and he said something along the lines of, it would be cruel to say that Elias Lindholm hasn't had a 5-on-5 point in forever, because he did have a shorthanded goal and a power play assist. So you can continue to say Elias Lindholm is not producing at 5-on-5, but he does have 3 points in his last 2 games, and it's 2 assists on the power play and a shorthanded goal. Unfortunate to waste a good game from him. There have been so few of those this year. I remember when Sacco first got hired, Elias Lindholm had a stretch of good games, and I was like, all right, maybe this is what it took. Took some time, but now he's getting used to it. Acclimating to new systems and to the Bruins, and it wasn't the case, because he reverted right back to just not producing. And he's been good on draws, and he's been solid defensively. We'll get into that with player cards, but you didn't sign him to almost $8 million to be a third line center. Can he build off this? Hopefully he can continue to build on this. He played with Marchand and Coyle again on Thursday night. He moved up. Now he's second line center. So you hope that there's something there. But again, another one where I don't know how you can have a ton of faith in him finishing this season strong, given what he's shown you for the first bunch of months of the season. I don't know how you can see anything else. I'm willing to give him, a fresh start next year. I am. It's a free agent signing. That's a big move. Can they find wingers for him? Can he fit with them? But to end this season, again, it goes back to a retool. The number 1 center you signed is playing like a third line center. I don't know if I'm going all in on this team. I don't know. I don't have faith that I'm going to trade my first round pick or my top prospect. I'm going to trade Mason Lohrei or Matt Patra for JT Miller. I'm just not there. I'm just not willing to invest in this team. And it goes, I think it's not all Elias Lindholm. I'm not going to do the Nikita Zadorov treatment where I go in on a player. I'm not doing that today. That took a lot of energy out of me the other day, by the way. I've done a lot of these podcasts. Usually you just go on with your day. I lack energy the rest of the day. I put everything I had into that. But a lot of the struggles this year center around what Lindholm hasn't given you. He hasn't given you the stability of a number 1 center. He hasn't, for most of the year, hasn't been potent on the power play like we all thought he would be. So again, good to see him get a 2-point night, but can he continue it? That's the real thing. And then one thing I saw a lot of people getting on, and it's very understandable, Mason Lohrei on the 4th goal, tries to go behind his net, come out, cuts to the front of his own net. And I think it was Kyle Connor or Nikolai Ehlers. It was one of the two who tipped it in. It was basically an own goal by Lohrei. And obviously it's a bad play. I mean, don't cut in front of your own net when there are guys all over you. Preventable, all that. Bad play. Stupid play by a rookie. Not great. And easy to pick apart. But here comes the but. He's a young player. He's creative. He's rather high end. He is one of the few bright spots you have going forward. He doesn't suck. He is a very valuable asset on D for the future. If he reaches his potential and is like a top pairing defenseman, and can give you 50 points a season, that's a big thing. Even more offensively, can run your power play. He's been better on the power play running it than McAvoy has this season. That's a big thing for a second-year player. He's one of the few young guys they have that has potential, and they're using him right. They're actually using him right. They're letting him get chances. They're letting him make mistakes. And you know what? That's a mistake. You work through it. Now he knows not to do that. I also hate discouraging defensemen from trying to make plays. It's one of my least favorite things. I hate when defensemen are told, chip it off the glass, rim it around the boards, dump it in. I don't like it. It's not entertaining, and it doesn't help develop you. And obviously, the NHL is not a developmental league. I understand that. But Lohrei is good enough and has enough offensive and puck-moving potential to be able to develop those skills at the NHL level to make plays. Now, that's not a play you want to make. You don't want to cut in front of your own net, but he's trying. He's trying, and I give him credit for that. I give him credit for trying to make a play. It didn't work out. It ended up in the back of his net, and from there, things went south. It was a bad mistake. Don't do that again, obviously. But I'm not writing him off. I'm not benching him. I am not trading him. None of that. He's a unicorn. And at worst, if he's a third pairing defenseman in the NHL who can help run your power play and produce offensively, you will take that every time. We'll get to his athletic card in a bit, and sort of kind of how his defensive game does need to evolve for sure. But I'm not writing him off because of a mistake like that. I'm not. Anyway, before we get into Chara and some of those player cards, our friends over at Prizepicks, big games coming up. And for the big game, Patrick Mahomes only needs one passing yard for you to win one square. So you just add another square, and if that square wins, you win some cash. When it comes to Philly and Kansas City, will Saquon Barkley rush for more than 112.5 yards? Will Jalen Hurts pass for more than 215.5 yards? Will Travis Kelce have more than 62.5 receiving yards? Will Xavier Worthy have more than 56.5 receiving yards? All legitimate questions, and you get to pick more or less on each of them, which is always very, very fun. And when it comes to the Bruins, Pastrnak is rolling. Geeky's working out. Maybe you're like, Elias Lindholm's going to get on a hot streak here. I don't know if I support that, but maybe you want to pick it. So Prizepicks has all that. They also offer MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. Run your freaking game. So a little bit of I don't know if I want to say a bombshell, but a pretty big news story from Kevin Paul Dupont of the Boston Globe on Wednesday. As Zdeno Chara is back with the Bruins as a consultant, can Big Z help them from becoming a playoff DNQ? It did not qualify. Dupes writes, two sources, each with knowledge of the front office, confirmed Chara's new role in separate discussions with the Globe. Both sources, who are not team employees, requested to remain anonymous. He also wrote prior to that, among the game's most dedicated and fiercest competitors, coined a killing machine by his agent Matt Cater upon Big Z's arrival as a free agent. Chara's greatest value to the franchise today would be to help general manager Don Sweeney and club president Cam Neely better identify player talent and shape a more competitive and cup-fit roster. Here's the statement that Don Sweeney gave the Globe. The Boston Bruins are excited to be exploring the opportunity to welcome Zdeno Chara in an advisory role that supports our players and coaches. We have had an open invitation and ongoing dialogue with Zdeno to return in some capacity whenever he felt it was right for both he and his family. Zdeno recently indicated he has interest to help and be involved. While his schedule and role are still unfolding, we believe he can make a positive impact on the organization as a mentor to our players and advisor to our coaching staff. Now, here's one question. How does Char have time in his busy running schedule to be able to help the Bruins? Is he really dedicated to the Bruins? I don't know. On a serious note, I kid about that. Char can pretty much do anything he wants. Interesting thing here. So Kevin Paul Dupont mentions Chara's greatest value to the franchise would be to help Sweeney and Neely better identify player talent and shape a more competitive and cup fit roster, as in an advisor to the GM and president to help with the deadline. But Sweeney never mentions that. Sweeney just says, supports our players and coaches as a mentor to our players and advise our coaching staff. So I wonder, A, whose idea was it to bring Chara back? That's the number one thing. It doesn't feel like it's Sweeney, given that statement. What is Chara's role? Seems a little not misconstrued, but a little cloudy. What is Chara going to be doing? Is he going to be helping the front office? Is he going to be helping with trade deadline moves, which is interesting? I mean, how much has he been keeping up on the league? One criticism of the Neely run Bruins is they like big players. They like physicality. Chara was big and physical. Is that what he's going to prefer in players when he looks at them and says, we need to go for that guy, or we need to trade that guy, or we need to trade for or sign that guy? So I think those are all valid questions. I'm not questioning Chara's hockey sense and his ability to spot talent. It's a legitimate question of what is his type of player? Is it him? Or is he, hey, the game is changing. We need to evolve. We need to get faster, more skilled players. Size isn't as big of a factor anymore, although obviously the past bunch of cup winners have had big defensemen. But I think it's very clear the Bruins need more skill and more speed. That has been abundantly clear this season. So I just wonder what his outlook on player development and what he's looking for in players is going to be. Now, I will say, from my job at New England Hockey Journal, I work with and cover a lot of ex-NHL players. Like Freddie Meyer is a great example, right? Freddie Meyer was a sort of rough and tough, smaller defenseman in his day. He fought, he hit. I think it was Brian DeFelice tweeted out the throwback of Freddie Meyer hitting Lucic up high and starting a brawl. And, you would think, oh, Freddie Meyer is developing. I bet he's going to develop those same kind of defensemen. Well, Freddie Meyer is a high-end skills guy. Edge work, all those things, skating. He's big into that stuff. So maybe Chara's the same. Maybe Chara's similar, where it's like, hey, I was this type of player, but we don't need, you'd kill for a roster full of Zdeno Charas now, but you don't need all big strong guys who are physical. You want some skill, you want some speed. So that's sort of my first thing with Chara. I wonder where he is on that. And the other thing is just, what's his future with the franchise? Is he an advisor who's going to become team president in 5 years and replace Cam Neely? Are they getting ready for Chara to become the GM and Sweeney's out at some point? They do like to promote from within. Sweeney was the AGM to Chiarelli. I think Neely was in some sort of role. Don't quote me on this, but I'm saying this on a podcast, but he was in some sort of role prior to being team president. Obviously, Cassidy was the head coach in Providence and then was an assistant. We thought Jay Leach would end up being the guy this year. Joe Sacco was the associate head coach before he became a head coach. I was here for 10 years. So they like to promote from within. They typically do. And I do wonder what Chara's future is. Again, is he replacing Sweeney at some point? Is he replacing Neely at some point? Does Patrice Bergeron have any interest in it at some point, kind of doing what Chara seems to be doing and coming in and being a franchise guy? I don't know. I think it's very interesting what they envision Chara's role to be. Now, if Sweeney is, telling the truth, which we don't have any reason to believe that he isn't, what's Chara going to, is he going to be a player development guy? Is he going to be a leadership guy, mentoring the leaders? Do they feel that there's a kind of a void there after Brad Marchand? It's a legitimate question. When it comes to coaches, we'll get into, who the coach might be next season and who could be on staff. We'll save that for another day. But will Chara be mentoring them? Will it be an all-encompassing role? So I think it'll be interesting to see how he evolves, what he does, what he's going to do, what his outlook on player development is, what he's looking for. We don't know yet. This just happened on Wednesday. Chara has not spoken since. They haven't. Sweeney has not spoken about Chara other than that statement. So I find it fascinating. I would assume you do too. I hope you do, because I just talked about it for like 6 or 7 minutes. But I just, there is a part of me that wonders, is this the future team president? Is this the future GM of this team? And he's in now, and he's all in for it. He's a competitive guy. Now, obviously, there's legitimate questions. If he is advising on this trade deadline, like Kevin Paul DuPont sort of suggests, what's his outlook on this deadline going to be? I have a tough time believing Zdeno Chara is going to say, well, sell. Like, I would think that Chara would have that same player mindset of this, any team, if they can get in, can do it. Chara's teams always got in the playoffs, and they always believed they had a chance. Is Chara going to carry that same mentality into the front office, or is he removed and says, no, I look at this team, and you hear it on the NESN Obstructive Views thing. I forget who it was it was either Krejci or Rask, kind of was like, oh, this team annoys me. I forget who it was, but I wonder if Chara feels the same way, where it's like, nope, this team needs a new look. And how does he handle Marchand? How does he handle the idea of either re-signing or trading Brad Marchand? How does Zdeno Chara help with that in his outlook? Again, Chara played with Marchand for a lot of his career. What is his view on that? I have a tough time believing Chara wants to ship Brad Marchand out the door. So I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting all around. So it'll be interesting to see what Chara ends up doing with this team. But first, before we get into athletic player cards, our friends over at Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best possible value. It's that time of year. February is about to start. Freshen up the winter. Go to a Bruins game. Go to a Celtics game. Maybe you're a listener in a different part of the country or the world. You want to go to a game? Go to one near you. Or you want to go on vacation? Now is a good time. It's cold here in New England. Go somewhere warm for a little bit. You've earned it. Go to Florida, California, Arizona. Go to a game out there. And remember to use our friends over at Gametime. Seat views, all-in pricing, lowest price guarantee. You take that every time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it, Connor? Oh, he's not here. It's game time. That's what it is. It's game time. So athletic player cards. They came out earlier this week. I find them very interesting. It's Dom Lasizin and Shayna Goldman who do it. They have a whole a net rating, are all in one player value stat based on each player's offensive defensive rating. The card showcases all the stats that determine how strong each player's ratings are on and off the ice. It's a weighted combination of their production, goals, assists, expected goals, blocks, penalty differential, and their play driving. Adjusted for difficulty. The cards also show each player's market value, which this is interesting. Their market value based on their total contribution. So the Bruins, we'll start with the good. The players who have played above their value or have played at it. First one's David Pastrnak. He's in the 99th percentile for offensive rating. 60th percentile for defensive rating. That's not horrible. It's not bad. He is currently, so his salary is $11.3 million. His market value is $10.6 million as of now. And that's a that's a $700,000 decrease. I'm not going to get all angry about that. He had a tough start to the year. He's been much better of late. I've been completely fine with his contract. I'm not complaining about that. Hampus Lindholm. So NBC Sports Boston just put out that tweet. I don't know. I've quoted it and kind of called them out for it, but they tweeted like, who's the worst contract in Boston sports? And they put Hampus Lindholm on it. They also put McAvoy and Swayman, which I am nowhere near putting McAvoy on it yet, just for one bad year. And I'm definitely not close to that with Jeremy Swayman, who missed all the training camp. And yes, he's been not great this year and has definitely had his bad moments, but I'm not saying he's a bad contract yet. Hampus Lindholm gets heat for his playoff performances last couple years. He regressed a little in the regular season last year. Up until he got injured, he was their best skater by far this year. And that shows. So his salary, $6.5 million. His market value right now is 7.3. Offensive rating, 74th percentile. Defensive rating, 88th percentile. You take that every time. They need him back. Not saying he's going to change their whole outlook, but he helps. By the way, you guys see the salary cap's going up? So all these contracts are not going to look as terrible as some of them are, like the ones they signed last summer. Not Hampus Lindholm. Other ones that I found interesting. Brad Marchand, obviously lots of sort of trade rumors. He was asked about it after Thursday's game. He's $700. He's playing $700,000 more than his contract. So he's playing at a market value of $6.8 million, 87th percentile offensive rating, at 26th percentile defensive rating. Defensive, I'd like to see better. I mean, he is getting hard minutes. He's in the 97th percentile for difficulty for defensive minutes, and he is in the 99th percentile for penalty killing. But still, you take the offensive production you can get from your 36-year-old 5'9" left winger every single time. I found this one funny. Morgan Geekie has a market value right now of $5.4 million. So Connor and I went over those contracts. I forget the name of the company that put them out. I don't have it in front of me, but we talked about it like a week ago. They put out sort of the UFA and RFA expected contracts this year, and Geeky, I think, was it like 3.4 million for 4 years, which is insanely low. Market value according to The Athletic right now, 5.4 million. So he is playing at a surplus value because he's making $2 million, surplus value of 3.4 million, which is impressive as hell and not surprising given how good he's been this year, both offensively and defensively. He ranks high in both, or he ranks higher actually in defense. So again, I think you should re-sign him. You don't have much wing depth. He can play anywhere. You know he works. It's a safer bet than a free agent. I'm for keeping Geeky. I know he could get you more in a trade than maybe a Trent Frederick, but I'm for keeping him. Other interesting ones. Justin Brazeau playing much higher than his salary. Granted, his salary is $800,000. He's playing at a $3.2 million level. Another good one is Parker Wotherspoon. Parker Wotherspoon's making $800K. We always kind of look at him as a seventh defenseman. He's playing at a $3.4 million market value. So that essentially for that is he should be making $3.4 million based on what he's given you this year. Offensively, he's in the 9th percentile. Defensively, 91st percentile for Parker Wotherspoon. He's been great defensively this year. He's stepped up. Yes, he's had some bad moments, but overall, he's been a good plug and play kind of guy. 5-on-5 defense, he's in the 97th percentile, which is unbelievable value you're getting out of him. Mason Lohrai's market value is $2.6 million. So again, a surplus value of $1.7 million. That's pretty good. Then you get into sort of some of the not so great ones. Charlie Coyle right now making $5.3 million. His value this season has been at $2.6 million. So he's given you about half of what you're paying him. Offensively, not great. Defensively also has not been great. Although again, he's had difficult minutes defensively, but still has not been good enough. Nikita Zadorov, $5 million a year. Right now, he's giving you $2.3 million in terms of defense. So Wotherspoon is actually more valuable than Nikita Zadorov, according to the Athletics player cards. I don't know if it takes into account size. It just takes into account the results on the ice. And Wotherspoon, according to the Athletic, has been more valuable than Nikita Zadorov. Your $800,000 defenseman has been more valuable than your $5 million free agent acquisition over the offseason. And Brandon Carlo's right there. Brandon Carlo is being paid $4.1 million. He's been market value of $2.1 million. Again, he has very difficult minutes. Still 47th percentile for defensive rating, which is not great. A lot of blocks, hard minutes, 84th percentile for that, 82%, 82nd percentile, however you say that, for penalty killing minutes. So again, Carlo, Zadorov, Coyle have been sort of your underperformers in terms of just contractually. And Trent Frederick's another interesting one, given, he's taken a lot of heat all year. He's not making a lot at $2.3 million. His market value this year has been 1.9. Just kind of a uninspiring season out of him. So I found those interesting because, again, Wotherspoon on D kind of puts things in perspective. Brazeau up front giving you something. Elias Lindholm was another one that we did not get to. He's given you a lot less. So he's making $7.8 million. His market value, $5.1 million. So again, he's giving you $2.7 million less than what you expect from him. Offensively, not been great. Defensively, actually, not bad. 79th percentile for that. A lot of blocks, hard minutes, and then also a lot of penalty killing. 95th percentile in difficulty in defense and in penalty killing minutes. So all to say, there are some overperformers, but there are some underperformers who are big, legitimate players for you that are weighing you down at the moment. You look at other teams and a lot of guys, like a Tampa Bay has a ton of guys who are overperforming their contracts. And that obviously helps. Bruins had a lot of overperformers last season as well. But that's this week's Bruins Beat. That is Bruins Beat. I hope you enjoyed it. Just me and you chatting. If you have any thoughts, DM them, comment on this YouTube video, shoot me a tweet, and I'll try to get back to you or put it in the next show. And that's all. That's Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky, Bruins Beat listeners. Have a great rest of your week.